Good evening, councillors, members of the public, officers, welcome. I declare the meeting open. Welcome to the first day of spring. Under announcements, I have a few, councillors, so bear with me. Firstly, I pass on my appreciation to Stephen Foster, who initiated Club Doctors. Stephen's been helping the Senior Citizens Centre with their financial challenges of late, and I understand that his recommendations have been accepted, and let's hope that it works out for them. I also want to thank the city staff and the SES volunteers who assisted residents in Usher last Saturday, that storm that went through. Fortunately, not a lot of damage, but great that our officers and the SES volunteers were there to assist those residents. The Bunbury City Band won the Queen's Prize on the weekend as well, so congratulations to them. Cinefest Oz was a terrific event, highly successful. The feedback I've got from everybody that I've spoken to about it indicates a very successful event, so thanks again to everybody who participated and our staff for assisting with that. The Bragg team continues to put on a lot of events and exhibitions, and there's some more exciting stuff coming up, so just a special thank you and an acknowledgement of the team from Bragg, if I can, through you, Steph. Unfortunately, some sad news just received a few minutes ago that former councillor Warren Lambert has passed away. A very young man. Yes, very sad news. I've also got a note here via Councillor Cook. The Bunbury Seniors Computing Club passes on its thanks to the council for the support shown to the club during the past 12 months. That club had its AGM on yesterday. And just a couple of other things. I've been appointed as a deputy member to the WA Local Government Advisory Board and appointed to the Regional DAP, Development Approval Panel, subject to me doing some training, Councillor Cook. So there you go. Apologies, councillors. We have an apology from Councillor Steele tonight. And Councillor Giles is on leave of absence for tonight. Declarations of interest. We have Councillor Jones declaring an interest on 10.5.2, adjustment to the truncated boundary. It's a impartiality interest, as she's a director, chairman of directors at ACWest. Councillor Cook declares an impartiality interest in item 10.4.3 as he placed a submission of objection to the proposal during the public advertising period and is a member of the Roadwise Committee. Councillor Prosser has declared a proximity interest in item 10.4.3 as he is a beneficiary of a family trust that owns a business across the road. Councillor Steck also declares a proximity interest in the same item as her partner owns a business which is directly across the road. Are there any further declarations of interest, councillors? Public question time, we have none tonight, council. We move on. Confirmation of previous minutes of the ordinary council meeting. Someone move that, please. Councillor Cook.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
All in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Can someone move the various advisory committees, the four of them? Someone moves. Councillor Jones, Councillor Hayward. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, do we have any petitions tonight? Councillor Jones?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have a petition with 29 signatures on it. The covering letter, the prayer on the petition is to Mr. Gary Browning, Mayor of Bunbury. We, the undersigned residents of Bunbury, respectfully request that a half-court basketball court be erected in the park at Garvey Place, Bunbury, for all the community to enjoy. 29 signatures, Mr. Mayor, with a covering letter.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Would you be prepared to move that we receive that and refer it to the relevant officer? Yes. Someone second that? Councillor Cook. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, we've received a number of requests for presentations tonight. Mr. Uqbal wishes to present on item 10.4.4 as he has property in the area of Ward Street. Please indicate if you're happy for him to make that presentation. Those again, that's approved. Mr. Rookville, I'll call you up when we get to the item. Pinnacle Planning, Ben Carter and Charles Marsdorf have requested to speak on item 10.4.3. They are the proponents. Can we have an indication of approval? Okay, that's approved. So again, I'll call you up, gentlemen, when we get to the item. Mr. Terry Evans, 10.2.6. Is Terry in the room? Okay, so Terry's representing rugby. Councillors, do you approve Mr. Evans giving a presentation? Please indicate. That's approved. And Brian Simone, Lot 32 Jubilee Road, Bunbury, wishes to speak to us on his application for the fish filleting business, home occupation business. Councillors, do you approve of that? Please indicate. That's carried unanimously. So to all of you, when we get to your items, I'll invite you up. You have 5 minutes to present, and we're delighted you're here. So, councillors, dealing with the agenda tonight, coming out for discussion, 10.11, 10.12, 10.26, 10.27, 10.42, 10.43, 10.44 and 10.5.2. Are there any others that councillors wish to discuss? Councillor Kelly?
If I could just take out 10.2.1. Thanks.
Thank you. Any others, councillors? Can someone move the balance? Councillor Steck, Councillor Cook, all in favour? That's carried unanimously, thank you. I'll just pause to acknowledge the presence of the Honourable John Castrulli, MLA Member for Bunbury. Welcome to you, John. So, councillors, 10.11, this requires an absolute majority. Councillor McCleary, do you wish to move that? The road was Gwynny. Move Councillor McCleary, seconded by Councillor Cook. All in favour? That's carried unanimously, thank you. 10.12 also requires an absolute majority. Councillor Hayward, would you care to move that one? Is there a seconder? Councillor Miguel. All in favour? That's carried unanimously, thank you. 10.2.1. Can I have someone move the recommendation? And then we, Councillor Steck, Councillor McCleary. Councillor Kelly, do you wish to ask a question or?
I do wish to add a 4, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering as the protocol goes. Perhaps it might be easier if it's up on the board now. It's reducing waste to landfill to less than 25% by 2025. And
okay.
So you've heard the mover and the seconder if they're happy. Otherwise, I'll move this as an amendment, Mr. Mayor.
So Councillor Steck and McCleary, Councillor Kelly wishes to move that amendment to number 4. Are you happy for that to be incorporated in the overall, or would you prefer not to?
I would just ask, sir, what complications would we engage in if we are not at the 25% by 2025? I think this is just a target, so I'm happy to do that. So because it's only a commit, it's not a actual. So I'm happy for it.
You're happy to be incorporated in the motion. Councillor McCleary, are you happy? Okay. Well, let's just deal with it that way. So, Councillor Steck, do you wish to speak on this matter?
I think it's been enough said in the initial briefings and so on, and I know that we still have a little way to go to negotiate with our other neighbouring shires, but I would encourage us all to just support it.
Councillor McCleary? Anyone speaking against this? I'll put it. All in favour? It's carried unanimously, thank you. 10.2.6, Mr. Evans. Welcome, Terry. Would you like to come forward to that microphone there? You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, councillors. Your Honour.
Yep.
I'm one of a group of 2 clubs that are representing in the Hay Park South Pavilion venture. we're interested in obtaining a lease on the premises. It was, in principle, a combination of the Rugby League, the soccer and Bunbury Council to obtain approximately $3.2 million of funding from state government sources through royalties for region for the funding of the building of the project. And I believe the building come in at $3.1 million for the building of the building. So I think that was a good outcome for it all. What we're talking about tonight is the go forward for the lease, proposed lease. There's a proposal in the agenda about Mr. Bryan has recommended option 3 in his proposal. Both the soccer and the rugby league are opposed to that option. We can't totally understand how, for a number of factors, we can't totally understand how the council can manage the process at the same time lease it full time to the clubs. They want to engage the whole community, a whole group of communities on the clubs, surrounding clubs for hiring the premises, and we've worked through some models of that, and the document that was proposed to us in the last couple of weeks doesn't represent what we've been talking about over the last 18 months. And so we're a little bit against that model. We can't see, and I hope you understand, the model is about that we understand is the model is that City of Bunbury want to manage the facility, as in the booking and the hiring, the facilities and of the facility and so forth. Yet they want to give us a long-term. Yes, they want to give us a long-term lease of all year round on the premises. So we can't understand how the two can work in conjunction. We haven't seen a draft lease at this particular stage, or the draft management plan, albeit we have some in principle agreements, and we're waiting to see the detailed outcome of those before we enter into final leasing agreements. The interesting thing that we're asking questions for is about the lighting for the Bunbury United Soccer Club. We believe, or we understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, we understand that the lighting for the Bunbury United Soccer Club has been funded out of the Hay Park South project, the upgrade of their lighting. So we're a little bit curious as to why the money is coming out of that project for something that's a ground on the ground to the side of the project. Also, we're also querying about the cost of life of the projects. We're also concerned about how that functionally and fundamentally works. Now, don't get me wrong, we are all for paying additional and supporting and getting in getting this building done, and getting our gratitude and supporting the City of Bunbury for creating and helping create this opportunity of getting club rooms for the minor clubs in the area. However, we're a bit concerned about sorry, I've lost where I'm going with that. We're just a bit. We're concerned about what the lease is going to say, what's in the management agreement, because they don't seem. From the meetings we've had with the mayor and the deputy mayor and the CEO at early stages, and in the earlier stages with representative management teams of the City of Bunbury, the last few documents that have come out don't represent what they're saying. The costs incurred, that's right. The costs that are being represented is being the cost of life of the building. We're talking at the moment they're proposed as $165,000 a year. I'm not too sure how many clubs in WA alone could afford $165,000 a year for a sporting club to pay for such facilities. So not too sure why that policy's come up and where that policy come from, but I think that that will be explained to me a little bit later. But we're concerned about that part of it, albeit that we're prepared to do as best as what we can, open our books for the council and so forth to try and do as best as what we can to provide support for the maintenance and care of the buildings for the future. So in those costs of the in the proposed costs, there's things such as the keeping of the grounds. The clubs are not leasing the grounds; we're only leasing the buildings. So we're not too sure why things like the ground keeping is involved in the cost of the cost. Remembering that if there was no building there, the grounds were being used for multiple sports anyway, and they were being cared for by the City of Bunbury as part of their general park costs anyway. So we don't know why that's been lumbered into the cost of this, the life of the cost for this grounds. We had agreed in principle to a nominal fee lease the document that came out then showed that the nominal fee then had some costs involved in that that were quite significant, and then the years 3, 4, and 5 were jumped from about $15,000 up to $400,000 a year. So we're just obviously concerned about where that is. Both the soccer and the rugby league play in the state competition. We are a minor sport in this state. We struggle even though our popularity is growing, our membership is growing, we struggle to compete for marketing. As you would be aware, AFL is the biggest marketing component, and things like the Surf Life Saving and so forth are the bigger components for getting the marketing dollar. And there's not that many marketing dollars to go around in Bunbury, as I'm sure you can appreciate. So we do struggle to get that. So we're a little bit concerned about why these cost of life buildings, cost of life are being bestowed on us at such a high rate in a very short period of time.
Just need to summarise, Terry, if you can.
Yeah. We're in disagreement with option 3 for that has been proposed by in the draft document by Andrew Bryan. We would like to see a draft lease and management plan so we could actually move forward that match the in-principle agreements that we've had with in previous meetings with the representatives of the council. And before we move forward on those items, and we're against the. If we're going into a lease of the building, then we're against the City of Bunbury being the managers of the building, because we can't see how the two could coexist.
Okay, thanks very much. Terry, just for your information, you can see on the screen there's 3 parts of the recommendation that we're dealing with tonight, and some of the things you've mentioned aren't in that. So that's what we're dealing with tonight.
Okay.
Can I have someone move the executive recommendation? Councillor Hayward, Councillor Steck. Take a seat, Terry. Thank you. Councillor Hayward.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Look, it is disappointing to hear the groups that we're trying to assist and get through come along at this late stage without some of these things being resolved. I'd like to say that off the top, but ultimately we need to move forward with this. This needs to be resolved, so our staff need to go and talk to these guys some more, but we need to give them this framework that's before us. It says here that it agrees to develop a lease agreement, so we're not signing off, we're not asking councillors to sign off on the lease that the guys aren't happy with. Ultimately, somebody's got to pay the whole of life costs, as we're aware that the money's got to come from somewhere, so there needs to be a contribution. I think that's been made clear from the Mayor and others over time, so I'm hoping that our staff will be able to take this executive recommendation where it says that they're to develop a lease agreement, go back to the clubs, and hopefully they can get around the table and get on the same page so that we can get this going, get this open, and get some action on those fields.
Councillor Steck, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, sir. I again am also concerned about some of the issues raised. However, I agree and concur. This is just an authority to go and draw up a lease agreement. We also have there on 2B a discounted rent for periods year 1 and 2, and also for the rent for years 4 and 5 and the preferred options of taking up for the 5 years is indicative of their financial records of the club. So please be assured that you're not going to be having to really look at $165,000 if it's clear that your records show you can't afford it. Thank you, sir.
Is there a speaker against this? Sure, Councillor Kelly.
Just to clarify, I might have missed it, Mr Mayor, and all that, the words in here. Just the timeline for the next stage of negotiation with the two clubs, if I could get some indication as to when we would perhaps see something coming back to us in some form so that we know what it looks like.
Okay, look, my understanding, I'll invite the Director of Corporate and Community to speak, but my understanding is that while the building is being constructed, ready for the 2016-17 seasons, this process will continue and they'll be bringing it back to us to sign off on the lease. But through you, Mr Harris, is it you or the Director of Corporate and Community?
I'd say probably about 6 to 8 weeks before we come back to council after some negotiation. The buildings, in theory, should be finished the first week in early January. So we have potentially 4 months before the building will be used. So we have 4 months of negotiation.
Okay, thanks. So is there a speaker against this? I'll put it. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So, Mr Evans, there will be further discussions. Your points are well made tonight, but this is the first stage. Thank you for coming along. 1027 requires an absolute majority. Can I have someone move that, please? Councillor Kelly, Councillor McNeil. Is there likely to be any speakers against this? Okay, I'll put it all in favour. Those against? 1, that's carried. Thank you. We go to 10.4.2. Mr Simone. Welcome. You have 5 minutes to present to us tonight.
Yeah, I've got about 3 minutes, I suppose.
That's fine.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, councillors, just want to get across to you, as we've been in business in Bunbury for 43 years, professional fishing. As you know, times have changed, heaps more restrictions. The fish are still coming in, so they're not a problem. But what we've had to do because of imports, labour costs and that, everyone's changing their ways of thinking on how we're handling our product. So therefore we're looking to diversify in the way of filleting. We only want to go small scale because it is only a home family thing at this stage. If we wanted to get bigger in the future with the filleting, we realise that we'd have to go to an industrial type situation somewhere, but I don't want to do that, although I've got 3 young children that were mad keen on fishing. We're really fighting at present to sell our product, believe it or not. Sour West caught fish can't be sold in the Sour West because 1, there's no labour to cut the fish up, and 2, it's not even been offered to the businesses of the Sour West or the public. There's small shops here and there, but as you know, rent's too expensive. The supply's not always there, but we've found, in the last 6 to 8 months, that the demand for fresh local fish caught between Mandurah and Albany is just twofold. Everyone's sick of imported fish. They know where it comes from. They're not happy. And, we've sort of elected to take it on board and try and supply the public with some, nice fresh snapper, jewfish, shark, whatever comes up, at the right price too. That's another big thing. We're competing against fish that's $10 a kilo from Vietnam and stuff. We too want to put fish out there for $10 a kilo, and we can do it because we're bypassing the middlemen. The main thing is to have the public and the council on side. We want to comply right through. We don't want any shortcuts, and we just hope to get your vote tonight. Small scale only, and work with council if we have to get bigger in the future. And, there's no intention of any factories, any more buildings, any more waste, any more smells, anything. We're going to maintain the same building. All we want to be able to do is put a food grade, usable, compliance room to fill up the fish in, which is going to be temperature controlled. All the waste is going to be frozen. There's going to be no offal bin sitting around for days on end or anything like that. All the offal's spoken for too, believe it or not. Fishermen can't get bait. So, that sort of fixes that problem. But, we've got fish going to Mount Barker, we've got fish going to Bridgetown, Collie, the Mumble Up pub that's just been taken over by the new guy, Donnybrook. We just can't keep up with it, and we just need to be able to throw that other card in the heap. So that's all I got to say, and please give us a go.
Well done, thank you, Mr. Simone. We'll see if we can give you a go. Someone prepared to move this? Councillor Jones, Councillor McNeil seconded. Councillor Jones, do you wish to speak?
Just to concur with Mr. Simone that this is a business that's been in operation for 43 years. It's small scale. The recommendations there he's agreed to comply with, and as such this business doesn't have to, it can go ahead until December 2016. I'm sure that the city's environmental health services will ensure compliance, and on those grounds I hope everyone supports it.
Thank you. Councillor McNeil, do you wish to speak?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone speaking against this? I'll put it all in favour. That's carried unanimously. There you go. Keep fishing.
I hope you come and buy a fish off us.
Don't worry. I think you'll get a few orders now. Sorry, councillors, I'm getting away from my demeanour. 10.4.3, Councillor Prosser, Councillor Steck, you wish to declare your interest and depart. So I welcome Mr. Ben Carter and Mr. Charles Maysdorp. Come along, gents, and again, 5 minutes. Over to you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor, councillors, members of the staff and the public, we're here tonight to speak in favour of the proposed application for 10.4.3. We want to focus on two main areas which have really been, I guess, the major points, which is the road safety and I guess the local planning policy. In the first instance, we do know there's been a heavy focus on the road safety side of things, not all of it being useful, concrete or constructive in terms of moving forwards. Some of the things we thought we'd bring to your attention tonight, particularly in relation to the farmers market sign, as that's been a bit of a benchmark and a reference point throughout. We went back through the Main Roads advice for this application. They had stated that we only had a setback of 36 metres, and that was inappropriate for the road safety conditions. However, when we've gone through the agenda item, the farmers market sign has apparently been approved by Main Roads, and we estimate that's about 20 metres from the intersection, so we question the consistency and how that's come about. This is one of the main reasons that we did go and get a traffic report. We simply can't fathom how something that is much closer to the road, similar circumstances, was approved, yet our application is so seemingly unsafe. Another reason and a concern we've had is in trying to get further information from Main Roads, and I guess the council staff as well. We've had nobody that can really tell us that there's been, for instance, 20 crashes in the last 5 years, but none in the 50 years before that at this intersection. So it just seems like there's a lack of concrete evidence that this is actually going to be, or has been, given that there is something there now, such an unsafe outcome. The local planning policy considerations and the zoning, we understand that there were some points made last week about the proposal being an X-use. Obviously, I think we've dealt with that now. It is a policy. It can be varied. The X-use classification's perhaps a little bit misleading, but we won't go there tonight. We've only got 5 minutes. Obviously, it is a policy. It can be varied, and I think the farmers market in this application really do speak to the fact that policies can't suit every single application, and that's why they're a policy. They're conceived with an ability to vary and look at the situations that come up. In relation to the farmers market LED, that's an LED part pylon, part graphic sign. It's not 14.3 square metres, it's actually 32.5 double-sided. It's a 65 square metre sign. It was approved under delegation prior to this current sign policy coming out, but that sign policy was advertised. It was a seriously entertained document at the time. It was imminent enough that it ought to have been considered, and I guess that application sailed through under delegation, which is fine, but again, the points of that application would be it's double-sided, it's supposed to be single-sided, doesn't meet the size criteria for a pylon. It had variations, and the policy was already being varied before it came out. Again, all of that's fine because policies are there to be varied. It can't meet every single instance. What we're asking for are some variations to particularly the size and particularly the location. Ours is single-sided. It is set back consistent with the farmers market sign, if not more. But again, the farmers market is located outside of the city centre. Again, we think that's okay. There are limited circumstances and instances where you can have these applications. To sum up, and I guess bring it back to some of the original points when this came up previously, the difficulty really does surround the zoning and the site. Yes, we do agree that residential sites and this sort of signage are incompatible in about 99% of instances. This isn't a standard residential site. It's located on one of the busiest corners in Bunbury, and I think you'd struggle to find a site in Perth that would be less busy than this intersection. So it's clearly not suitable for residential. The constraints there have meant that a house hasn't been built. The access constraints, we think, would make it difficult to build a commercial building suitable to somebody based on the limited access that it does have. We do think that the situation is unique. It warrants the variation. It has previously. We think it still does warrant it. And we certainly think that those circumstances are unique to the extent where it's not easily replicatable in other residential zones, because this obviously is quite unique. You've got the alternate resolution we provided. We really do hope that the information and tonight's presentation will help assist in moving that alternate for approval. And if we could, just a couple of minutes, maybe one from our client. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, councillors, Mr. Mayor. My name is Charles Marsrup, and I'd like to speak briefly about the sign itself and the benefits it will add to the city of Bunbury. LED signage comes in a wide range of qualities. This proposed sign will be of the highest quality and provide a photo-like picture. Currently, there are 2 digital screens in the Perth CBD, with a few more currently under development. Due to the high cost of LED signage, it is best suited to specific locations. This prominent location on the corner of King Road and Sandridge Road will create a landmark location and be one of the first of its kind in Western Australia. To replace the sign that is already there and has been there for 4 years with new and more efficient technology that can now benefit a wide range of businesses can only be a good thing. Bunbury is a sought-after destination for advertisers, given its rapid growth in population and retail spending. I believe there is a place for third-party signage in every city, provided the location is central, highly visible, and done in a way that is high quality and aesthetically pleasing. If we are going to build a screen of this quality, we want to do it properly, by allowing brands from all around the world to target the audience of this growing city. LED signage also has the effect of reducing signage in general, as it allows multiple businesses to utilize a single screen, rather than each business trying to obtain their own signage. We have had enormous demand from businesses that were started in Bunbury and are proud to be from here. This digital medium will allow those businesses to be displayed on the same platform as international brands. This proposed sign creates opportunities for the city of Bunbury itself, as the screen provides the perfect way to keep communities informed about upcoming events and developments. Cities along with technology are changing rapidly. To have a sign in this particular location stay static and display only one advertisement is as archaic as it is impractical. I ask councillors to support this development, as it will put Bunbury at the forefront of changes in technology and innovation, and will show that signage, if done properly, can become a landmark within a city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Councillors, someone prepared to move the recommendation?
So, Mr.
Councillor Cook, second up. Councillor McCleary, Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very brief indeed. Unfortunately, I have declared an interest in this because I have been opposed to it, even in its current form, and it's got a fairly long history going back to 2009, which I won't go through. For me, it's a very simple one, this. It fails the common sense test, and that's enough for me. So I'd urge councillors to support the executive recommendation and not approve this sign. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, I endorse the executive recommendation, and as you're aware, I am the chairperson for Roadwise, so my concern is for the safety of our community. And you're also aware that the proposal came to the Roadwise Council in November 2014. And at this time, the members unanimously rejected the proposal because of the obvious hazardous distraction this display screen would have on drivers. It is a problem. We have a situation as humans that when we see a movement, we look at it. It's as simple as that. And if the advertisers weren't aware of that, then we wouldn't have signage that rolls over, because that is the most efficient way of being able to advertise. It would be a beauty, I agree, but it's on the wrong site. So I would urge all councillors to support what our executive had put through. I've looked and I've spoken with our executives on our town planning schemes and our signage, and I am confident that they are correct, that this particular signage, it is not for that site because of our residents, because it will be a distraction. So I urge you to support the executive. Thank you.
Speaker against. Councillor Hayward.
Thanks very much. I'd like to foreshadow that I'd like to move the alternate recommendation if this one's unsuccessful. I'd like to say that just in relation to the couple of points that have been raised, Councillor Cook said it fails the common sense test. I agree. I don't understand how we already have a sign in place. There's already permission for a billboard on there, and now we're going to argue about the technology. So it's okay to display it on paper, on a screen that doesn't move, but it's all of a sudden now not okay to use more modern technology to present effectively what is the same thing in advertising space in that area. I think that defies common sense. I don't understand that at all. We want to be a city that's progressive, and you go any city in the world, and the use of these LED sign systems are everywhere. It is the future, and I don't understand why we wouldn't want to embrace that. You know, surely there are opportunities as well for us, instead of rejecting these signs, that perhaps as a council our people can speak to all of the owners of these signs and work out a way if there's a benefit for use in emergency management. You know, maybe there's opportunities to have these signs do more than what the current signs do. I think there's an opportunity that could be missed, and I would strongly urge councillors to really consider whether we want to be a council that's about, you know, stopping the unrolling of technology, because we ain't going to stop it. All we're going to do is put the brakes on. Both of the objections that have been raised are historical. Both of the councils that have moved those objections didn't believe that the sign should be there in the first place, and so I'm saying that the sign's already there. I think we've accepted that. I think that we should not argue about the use of technology in the same space. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayward. Councillors, I'm sensing that with more information before us tonight that we should review this by having it deferred. I'm just floating that idea. Councillor Jones, sorry.
Mr Mayor, I've got an alternative motion.
Is it along the way that I'm speaking?
It's a procedural motion that the matter be referred to the Policy Review Committee, and I've got three what I believe are substantial grounds for that to occur.
I'll entertain your procedural motion, Councillor Jones, now, if you like.
Okay. Move that the matter be referred to the Policy Review Committee on the grounds that, 1, there are some perceived inconsistencies between this proposal and at least another one which could be regarded as similar and has been approved by the City of Bunbury. 2, the issue of electronic graphic display screens as a means of signage in locations other than the CBD, given the prospect of greater use of such signs in the future, and the definition in the policy is of animated signs when I think there's a greater definition required for electronic graphic display screens. And a third one, Mr Mayor, a qualification in the relevant policy that the City of Bunbury recognises that advertising by means of signage is a legitimate function of business and is enshrined in the policy as such.
Okay. Before I ask for a second, Councillor Kelly, would you as chairman of that committee be prepared to convene a meeting sooner than later? Because I don't think there's any more meetings scheduled before October 17. And I'd imagine we'd want to deal with this before then.
I'm more than happy to ask the Policy Review Committee members to come to the meeting, Mr Mayor, subject to everybody being available. So the answer is yes.
Okay. Is there a seconder to Councillor Jones? Councillor Morris. So we're seeking really to defer this matter and refer it to the Policy Review Committee for the following reasons. Councillors, Councillor Jones has moved, Councillor Morris has seconded. Let's vote on that.
Just one moment, Mr Mayor. Sorry, just a point of order.
Yep.
I think we need to give a set of meetings to come back to full council. I'm just wondering if that's 4 weeks or if it's...
Actually, you're quite right. Thanks for that point of order. Councillor Jones, we do need to have a time frame for this to be brought back. Do you wish to include a time frame in your motion?
Yes, I do, Mr Mayor, and that the matter be referred back to council for the next round.
So would you? I'd suggest 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Next round is a week and a half away.
4 weeks. Yep.
4 weeks?
Yes.
You happy with that? Councillor Morris, are you happy with that?
That's fine.
So, councillors, we understand what we're voting for now. Question, Councillor Cleary.
Mr Mayor, what I'm reading here and what we have here is there's nothing here about a site. It's the site. It's not so much the signage, it's about the site the signage is going on. And the Policy Committee, will they be dealing with that as well? Because it's not in here.
I think the intent of Councillor Jones' motion, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Jones, is to review that signs policy dealing with illuminated signs.
At an intersection?
No, just dealing with illuminated signs. Councillor Jones, is that your intent? Okay. Any further questions? I'll put it. All in favour? Those against? 1. That's carried. So, Mr Carter, Mr Marsdorp, this matter is going to be deferred. It's going to be referred to our Policy Committee to look at the policy relating to illuminated signs. It'll come back here in 4 weeks' time for a decision. Can we invite Councillors Prosser and Steck back in, please? Councillor Cleary or Councillor McGill? Councillors, we're dealing with 10.44. Mr Ukval, welcome. You have 5 minutes. Would you prefer to sit?
No,
You're
it's
okay
fine.
standing?
I'm not that retarded. Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen councillors, Mr. Castrillo, existing status quo on Ward Street, if we can have it at screen, it will be better to explain. Allow developer to put parking bays on the side of the street where proposed now. This was accepted in DPDRS 19. I have the paperwork in here. Unfortunately, I cannot get them on screen. And it was proposed on that's Higgins Street, of course, was proposed and accepted in 2011 as SU 53. We know that SU special use will be next year probably disappearing from the planning, therefore it is still only in. Now TMI proposed change to that in proposal this DPDRS 20. What it will do, instead of getting parking on Higgins Street, they will have now parking on the existing right of way on the two places and bring forward within 2 meters of the Blair Street building envelope. I do not oppose that, but what I am opposing is non-uniformity of the plan. As you see on the plan at the moment, who the heck will park on Higgins Street when they have a perfect parking from the Ward Street? Nothing will prevent council to modify that access that way, so right of way, which now legalities were solved and therefore council can do, accept and force TME to actually modify that without spending my resources, because I'm taxpayer and ratepayer, this is my money. Therefore, TME want to develop, let them develop, but full right of way, parking on the back, close the Ward Street, which is virtually useless stub anyway, extend the properties to the Blair Street and keep the uniform parking, margin of pathway, footway of 2 meters off the Blair Street. That way, council will be not liable for any recompensation for acquisition of the land for the parking spaces or public spaces. It will solve several problems with development. I was speaking with Mr. Bob Karaszkiewicz, with TOR as well, and I don't know what their personal opinion of that one is, but I see this one as one of the viable solution, not excluding current use of the housing, because if we would go with this proposal, unfortunately, council will need to somehow reimburse repossession of the place. Where if we just shifted that towards the Blair Street, there is no acquisition of land, no waste money, council is happy and we are happy. And I speak with all of the owners of the housing, except one. Well, cannot meet her, she's redeveloping her home and therefore she's not living there. And all of them virtually are of this same opinion. Therefore, I'm representing not only myself, but to a certain extent my neighbors. All of us are, we can say, on retirement age, and one day we will cark it. Don't rush on my funeral yet, please. and we want to just live there. Proposed in special use is 1,001 different uses. In Bunbury, as we know, we already have a bit too many, we can say, commercial spaces. Only 65% occupancy through the city. This means 35 is vacant, even if overpriced. It's still vacant. And henceforth, I would suggest that council do the bite and look a bit more on the proposal as I'm stating it. Doesn't mean it needs to be accepted, because you are much more and you might have a much better solution than I think of. Okay? But at the moment I will strongly oppose of putting forward 2 lots and leave it all rest squinted on the back. It's as simply as that. From 512 of my square meters, according to that proposal, I am left with 260 square meters. In R20 zone, as we got it at the moment, I need still leave 1.5 blooming meter all around. This means for all effective purposes, I do not have even 260. I would be left with 140 square meters. Considering that my shed at the moment and my house are 180 square meters, this means I need to bulldoze half of my home. That proposal is not that good. Where if we extend all of that, everything stays. And other thing, Council is considering, I don't know if Council or just Planning Department is considering rezoning that. Tentatively, R80. I would suggest rather go even higher, R100. So it will be allow high density development, housing or whatever. Current trend is that we are building in Bunbury still, as it will be land for free and, zillion million miles of empty space around it.
Mr. Uckville, can you just summarise now, please?
Oppose that development. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Someone prepared to move the executive recommendation? Yeah, sure, Councillor Hayward.
Just, I think we did ask the question last week about it looks a bit odd with the one punched forward and the other one's back. And I think the answer that we were given last week was that we were not in a position to be able to tell the developer how to do their development. I just wondered if there's any update, whether there's any more feedback from the developer in relation to that.
Sure. I did note that there are only 2 submissions opposing this development. Through you, Mr. Harris, the Director of Planning, do you have any update on the intents of other landowners in that area?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the situation is that currently, before you have that plan, the proposal is to develop the top end of that plan there. There's nothing compelling the owners of the lower portion to develop in accordance with that. Indeed, what Tor Farnworth did discuss last week is that the new draft model scheme that we have completed will entertain a great deal of flexibility on how that land is developed. And we do concur with a number of comments that Mr. Wunkal has mentioned, that later when they're prepared to develop the lands, it's going to be more likely in sync with the proposal to the top of that plan, which makes greater sense.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor Hayward? I'm prepared to move this. Councillor Hayward.
Happy to move it, thank you.
Seconder, Councillor Cook. Councillor Hayward.
Nothing to say.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, thanks.
Councillor Cook. Is there anyone wish to speak against this? I'll put it all in favour. Those against? That's 2. That's carried. So, Mr. Uckville, that's the decision of Council. We've approved it.
In other words, these 2 houses will be put forward.
10.5.2, councillors, we have a declaration of an impartial interest from Councillor Jones. Is someone prepared to move that? 10.5.2. This is the adjustment to truncated boundary. Seconder, Councillor Cook, thank you. I'll put this now. Councillors, all in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Now we have requests for leave, and I did brush over Councillor Giles' request. I apologise for that, so let me just get to that. Can someone move that Councillor Jones be approved leave of absence from the 9th to the 14th, Councillor Steck leave of absence on the 8th of September, and Councillor Giles leave of absence for tonight. Councillor Cook, would you?
So moved to me.
And Councillor McNeil seconded. All in favour?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, did you just say Councillor Giles from tonight? I think it's 1 to 7. It might have missed something there.
It could well be.
Yeah,
it's the council meeting is the important one.
Yeah, the important one. I think it will read from 1st of September to 2nd of September, inclusive, given that she's off duty.
Okay. Well, the minute secretary will pick that up. So Councillor Cook moved, Councillor McNeil seconded. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, councillors. We are done. I declare the meeting closed. Thanks, everybody, for attending.